Our speaker today, senior day student, Walker McLelland.
A life not evaluated is a life not worth living. I heard this during the last talk of a camp I went to last year called JH Ranch. After the talk ended, we said our goodbyes to our counselors and boarded a bus for the 5-hour journey back to the city. Under the midnight sky, my friends slowly dozed off, but I could not. Each time I looked at the full moon, a spotlight pierced my soul, questioning, "Are you living a worthy life?" Through each bump and pothole, my heart started beating a little faster. What did that quote mean? As our bus left rough mountain roads and onto smooth interstate, I pulled out my journal and began to read. One page read, "If you are driving in a straight line and deviate from your course by 1 degree, you won't notice anything after 1 mile. But if you stay on that trajectory, you'll be very far off the mark after 50 miles, and it will take a much more difficult correction to get back on the right track." That made sense to me, but what criteria do you use to evaluate if you are on that right path? I would argue it is your purpose. Our paths in life will be different, and our purpose in life will act as our GPS on that journey. But how do you find your purpose? Purpose is defined as the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. It consists of your talents, your passions, and more. In search of answers, I flipped the page in my journal and read a lesson on Galatians 6:7. A man reaps what he sows. Underneath, a subpoint read, "Sow a belief, reap a thought. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. And sow a character, reap a destiny." I thought to myself, what is my primary belief, my foundation? A foundation is the base of a building that everything is built off. So I asked myself the most bedrock question I could think of. How did I get here? How did humans get here? We all share the same world, but how do I rationalize my existence? And how does that affect my purpose? I looked out the window. The trees zipped by, a camper van slowly passed us, and the moon slowly glowed the rural interstate. Inside the bus, I listened to the steady hum of the engine, the gentle snoring of the guy in front of me, and light worship music playing overhead. I took it all in and smiled. There has to be more. Look at our very existence, our breathing, this podium, this chapel. We can't be the sole product of a boundless number of random chemical reactions. The same way humans have a start point, the universe and time must have as well. If matter cannot be created nor destroyed, how did it get here in the first place? For all the infinite number of variables it takes for a planet to be viable to sustain life, there has to be more. There has to be someone or something outside of it all. For me, the only logical answer to the question at the foundation of myself, my origin, is the illogical one. There is a God. Due to my upbringing in a strong Christian family who's sitting in the front rows, and my friends who are also sitting in the front rows, I believe in the God of the Bible. To these two families, especially my hardworking mom that does not let anything stop her from providing the best medical care to hundreds of women in Chattanooga, while still coming home each night to make dinner and hug me goodnight, and my fiercely intelligent father who continues to teach me life skills of objectivity, logic, and nature in this world. Thank you for the past 17 years and how much each of you have meant to me and impacted my life. Checking the time, we were nearly done with the bus ride, and I was fully awake. For the first time, I knew what my foundation was and why. From there, I could start to answer the question of my purpose in living a worthy life. If I believe in the God of the universe, my purpose would be to fulfill his will, which in Matthew 22:34-40, Jesus says to first love God and second to love others. Deep down, we all want that. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be respected. We all want to be loved. Look to your left and look to your right. What do you see? Humans. God says in Genesis 1:27, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Further, God says in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Genetically, we are very similar, sharing 99% of identical DNA. Yet we are all incredibly and beautifully different. In Romans 12:4-6, Paul says, for each of us, for just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ, we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. Think of your own life. What is your gift? Is it your compassion for others, your academics, your communication skills, a sport, or even your leadership? Romans 6:16-18 says, don't you know that when you offer yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves to the one you obey? Whether you are slaves to sin, which leads to death, or to obedience, which leads to righteousness. But thanks be to God that though you used to be slaves to sin, you have come to obey from your heart the pattern of teaching that has now claimed your allegiance. You've been set free from sin and have become slaves to righteousness. If you choose to live with Christ as a foundation, it does not mean life will be easy. In fact, it will be intensely difficult. God will challenge me, but the same way a teacher does not talk during the exam and the coach doesn't play the game for you, he will use my experiences and failures to teach me and to serve as testimony for others to know him. Since I started taking time to evaluate my life on that bus ride, I found my passion for science, the human body, and helping others. I've come to love challenges as a way to test myself and to take advantage of the opportunities God has given me. Through prayer and self-evaluation, I feel God is calling me to use these desires to point me towards medicine, to be able to help others in a profoundly complicated yet beautiful way. Regardless of your foundations and beliefs, they will be tested. Seniors, our childhood, our time for failure without consequence is almost over. And for underclassmen, it will be over sooner than you can imagine. Dig into whatever time you have left before you go off to college, enter the real world, and start building on your foundation. Take time to evaluate your life and ask the questions whose answers provide the building blocks for your habits, character, and destiny. Surround yourself with quality friends, challenge yourself, and take risks. Each day is a gift, so be intentional and don't waste them. Thank you, and go Blue.
Appreciate Walker this morning and his wisdom and his words of encouragement and challenge. A couple of things in closing.